Now let's discuss the throttling device and the application of steady flow energy equation on a throttling device. Now what exactly is throttling? Now when a fluid flows through a constricted passage or a restriction, so let's use these words, constricted passage or a restriction. Alright. So what kind of a passage is a restricted or a constricted one? So if you look at this diagram over here, this is a partially opened valve. So this is the valve and it is partially open. So this is the valve seat and it is partially opened. So as the fluid flows across this or through this partially open valve or an orifice or a porous plug, there is an appreciable drop in pressure and the flow is said to be throttled. So this is throttling underway, okay, because the fluid is passing through this partially opened valve, okay, and the pressure drop is considerable. Right, now let's apply the SFE on this. Now this is actually inserted in an insulated pipe. So there is insulation on the pipe and the throttling device. Now this throttling device is nothing but a valve. Alright, so because it is insulated, the heat transfer per unit mass would be 0. And because it is just a valve, there is no shaft work as well. So the shaft work per unit mass would also be 0, isn't it? Let's put a proper 0. Now, having said this, if you apply the SFEE and before that, assuming that the elevation levels are almost same, so the change in the potential energy are also small and thus ignored, the SFEE reduces to nothing but this, which is almost same as the SFEE for a nozzle or a diffuser, isn't it? Now, in this equation also, we need to consider that the pipe velocities while throttling are also very low. So the velocity V1 is almost equal to velocity V2. There is no appreciable change in velocity. Okay. So they can be cancelled off. This brings us to a very, very important conclusion, that is H1 is equal to H2. That says that the enthalpy of the fluid before throttling is equal to the enthalpy of the fluid after throttling. So this is a very important, you can say, observation in the throttling process, that upon throttling there is not much change in the velocity or the kinetic energy, but there is a huge pressure drop and the enthalpy before and after throttling are the same. Now this was the application of SFEE on a throttling device. After this, let's apply the SFEE on a turbine and a compressor.